Your city is splitting in two, and the way your city's trying to fix it just might be making it worse. Premium at the top and dollar stores at the bottom, but nothing in the middle. That is your bifurcated market. And we're going to tell you what caused it, what it looks like on the ground, and what the one thing that actually might fix it looks like. So we're going to do this. We don't need a webinar to do this, and we don't need a bunch of PowerPoints to do this, and we don't need a long conversation about navigation strategies on how to deal with this. If you're an economic developer, a city planner, a mayor, or just a business owner that's worried about your city and you're watching your downtown hollow out, especially hollow out in the middle, then this is an episode to pay attention to. There's more conversations about this starting to happen, but we already know what it says, and we already know what it's not going to say. So first, you've got a bifurcated market. You can look at data and you see this. We're a Placer partner. When we look at foot traffic data, we're analyzing this, we see this, and we see places that are developing into two economies. It's bifurcated. There's not a middle anymore. High-income households are going for the premium experience, and they're going for that premium-based retail experience, and everyone else is shifting to value and those value essentials. The gap that's between them, not really a market opportunity right now, an outcome. The outcome of spending a decade or more on recruitment-focused economic development, and especially giving incentives to recruit national chains and retailers and restaurant chains where the food just comes out of a bag. Happens almost the same way every time. A city decides that it wants to be a desirable place. And so it's going to try and recruit premium tenants, and it attracts the developers. The rooftops start to arrive. The chef-driven restaurants show up. You get boutique fitness studios, and you get CrossFit, and the property values start going up, and the costs start going up. And when that happens, the businesses that built the actual foot traffic in the first place, that made the premium tenants want to come to the place and consider the place, those independent operators and your original music venues, your artists and your creators, the makers, they can't afford the rent anymore, and they're gone. You've all seen this happen. But when it feels the vacuum that's left at the bottom because the premium can't fill it all, that's your dollar stores and that's your payday lenders. That's your cell phone companies and your bake shops. They love a good vacuum when they find it, and they come moving in, and sometimes they move in droves. And that completes this bifurcation of your city. Now, the foot traffic data looked fine, and the city celebrated it. It was a great KPI on the strategic plan. But nobody pays attention to the productive middle that's gone. Your production economy has left. When you don't pay attention to it, because it may not necessarily generate the kind of dwell time and foot traffic numbers that the city council loves to hear or celebrate. Data is going to measure what exists. It's not going to measure what doesn't exist or what left, what was displaced to make room for the new and generic. So my office is here in North Miami. I can see it, I think, outside my window. There's a development called Solomia. It was called Biscayne Landing before. It was a Superfund site. It needed cleanup, it needed redevelopment, and that's a legitimate public priority that we had. It was contaminated land, and it needed to be remediated. There's no argument against it. But when it came time to decide what to build on that cleaned up land, what did the city's vision produce? Apartments, a Costco, an auto dealership, a vertical auto dealership. And hey, they call it mixed use, and they gave it a name that sounds like a neighborhood. And what they did is they built a Costco. Nobody creates anything at Costco. Nothing leaves Costco and gets sold in Tokyo or London or Sao Paulo. The Costco generates foot traffic. It generates a great retail KPI. It generates sales tax and property tax. It generates the kind of data that looks great in an economic development report, and it produces nothing. Now, here's the part that matters. A few miles away, Criteria Studios still exists. The recording studio where Hotel California was recorded, the Bee Gees, Saturday Night Fever, Fleetwood Mac Rumors, where Eric Clapton met Dwayne Allman, recorded Layla, and then Eric came back to Miami to record 461 Ocean Boulevard. He had such a great connection to the place. And Criteria is still there. It's still producing. It's still operating. It's one of the great recording infrastructure assets in the history of American music, and it's an awesome economic development asset driving a hidden music infrastructure in this community, including more than a dozen other studios that have clustered and popped up around it. The city has a living production economy anchor with Criteria. It's generating real IP, real exports, a cultural product that travels to every corner of the world. And just a few blocks away, when new land became available, the development vision produced a Costco. That's not a super fun problem. It's an imagination problem. It's a vision problem. It's what happens when the production economy is never even in the room when development decisions and vision decisions are being made by a city. So now, what does the other side look like? So what does the other side look like? Last week, I was at Creator Gold in Austin. A creator economy conference produced by Monica Khan that ran right next to South by Southwest. And I heard something in there about the Whaler Lighthouse. Whaler's a creator management company. They build co-working and studio production spaces for content creators in Brooklyn and in Venice Beach. Producers walk in and content walks out. Brands come to the building because that's where the talent is. Other creators cluster around it because the production infrastructure attracts producers. The neighborhood becomes more valuable because, not because of foot traffic data, because of that economic and entrepreneurial gravity that's happening there. The city didn't build Lighthouse. It didn't need to. Production economies build themselves when the infrastructure exists and they're not, the costs don't, what is it? And the costs don't price out the producers before that gravity takes hold. You see, this is what Criteria's been doing in North Miami for decades, and all of the rest of the music industry infrastructure that's built up around it that nobody sees. And this all happened without the city fully understanding what it had, or understanding at all what it still has. There was never a revitalization or an economic development or an entrepreneurial or production economy vision around it. The Whaler Lighthouse is what happens when someone understands it and they build that on purpose. So now, how can you fix the bifurcation? Well, you're not going to do it with a casino, and you're not going to do it with a Costco, and you're not going to do it with a new shiny development that has a name that makes it sound like a neighborhood and a place you want to live. You fix it with the production economy. That's your missing middle, to use a annoying cliche phrase that we hear a lot of the time now. Original businesses that create and export value. Original music scenes that build identity and attract talent. Original operators who build their own brand, and their original operators who own their building and their customer relationships, their fandom and their brand. And that creator infrastructure that pulls in producers and then pushes product and creativity out to the world. A city that builds for producers before the bifurcation is complete is a city that you're not going to need a navigation strategy into. North Miami has Criteria Studios. The proof of concept is sitting right here, generating the exports that the consumption economy is not going to replace. You can't replicate that, no matter how hard the consumption economy boosters up it want to try. And so it's not a question of whether the production economy works or not. It's a question of whether your city can see it well enough to value it and build the next big thing around it, instead of just having to try and build it next to another Costco. There's going to be more conversations. You're going to hear more about this bifurcated market and the data around it, especially throughout the economic development profession. It's going to talk about retail mix and consumer migration, experiential retail activations, what's happening with return to office. And it's going to say, here's some ways that you can navigate how your market's splitting into. What they're not going to talk about is Criteria Studios. They're not going to talk about the Whaler Lighthouse. They're not going to talk about their creator economy and what your city is producing versus what your city is consuming. But we just did. No permission required. So until next time, see ya.